I do knit with my family. In fact, when I do pick up my knitting, usually I find that my oldest son actually has taken a liking to it as well. So when he sees me with my needles, he tends to grab his as well. My name, I'm Matthew Allen, and what I make is a lot of different things. What we're going to talk about today is some of my knitting. I've been knitting for about a year now. I started about October of last year. Knitting in its basic terms is pretty easy. It's simply using two needles to create a series of loops that would generate a fabric. And over time, you can build up different layers of fabric to do different things. To start off with knitting, the only two things you really need are knitting needles and yarn, maybe even a pair of scissors. I think a great starter project for knitting would be something along the lines of maybe a coaster, a washcloth, or if you feel like spending a little bit more time, you can actually make a scarf pretty easily starting out. I like knitting for several reasons. One is it's one of the hobbies that I don't really need a lot of technology to do. I am a engineer by trade, and so a lot of my other hobbies include things like electronics, computers, and that sort of thing. You can't really lug that around very easily and work on that in a portable fashion. What I found with knitting, and it's very similar to programming too, where you come up with an idea and then you systematically work through the problem, and it's very easy, it's very portable. I can hide it in my pocket and pull it out when I need it. If I'm bored or if I'm waiting for a kid at like a swim meet or a swim class or a dance class, it's very easy for me to kill some time without looking at my phone. Some of my favorite projects that I've knitted are gloves, socks, and hats for my loved ones. I would say the most complex knitting projects I've done so far have been socks. Socks can be a little tricky, especially when you try to get them to fit. Well, it gets a little more complex because as you get to the cylinder part, that part is easy. Then you have to worry about the heel and turning, as they call it, turn the heel. And there's a lot of different techniques to get there. Some of the other difficult projects I've worked on is things like cable knitting, where I actually weave in designs into the knit. This isn't simply just plain old knitting. It's actually twisting and turning so that you get these intricate patterns with the stitches as you go. And it comes out really pretty, but it's kind of a exercise in faith because as you knit, you don't really see your effects right away until you get further in, and it's almost a leap of faith to knit and then get to a point where okay, now I actually see what this is supposed to look like. And then from there, you're good. But it takes a little bit of dedication, a little bit of faith to know that you're going to get there if you work the process. I think that knitting is an interesting hobby because as I sit and I'm somewhere and I pull out my knitting, I find that it generates conversation. It generates people, what are you working on there? What is that? I didn't realize that's really cool. You know how to knit. Wow, who taught you this? All these questions start popping up. And I find it's very fun and it's very relaxing. It's something that you can do to kind of relieve stress if you're anxious about stuff. I found it was one of the perfect pandemic like hobbies to pick up because everybody needs socks, everybody needs gloves. It gets cold in Erie, so it's nice to be able to say, hey, here you go, I made a set of gloves for you, and it's a very nice homemade thing. And that's kind of trees into something about why I kind of sort of picked up knitting versus crochet. My wife crochets, so I knit, so therefore our two hobbies are very intertwined, but I'm not stomping on her thunder and she's not squashing mine. But also too that to be able to make something to be able to give to somebody that they can wear and go, hey, I made that. It's not so much the pride of that you made it, but the fact that the love and the care and the effort you put into something is appreciated. Switching gears a little bit with the Glowforge, what got me into the Glowforge is one day one of the librarians showed me a really cool toy that they made with a laser cutter. And I'm like, that's pretty neat. I'd like to see what you could do with that. And as the Glowforge became available, I realized with the engraving, cutting, and assembly process, you can use multiple materials. You can do a lot with that Glowforge that most people don't seem to understand is the capabilities. You can make 3D prints of stuff by just linking different cuts together. You can make engravings on materials for your loved ones for Christmas. It's a very versatile tool. For example, some of the Glowforge projects I've worked on have been like gauges for my knitting, actual different rulers to measure things, also different winding wrapping. Other things I've used it for, I've actually made a darning mechanism so I can actually, it doesn't work very well as crude, but it does work, where I can actually patch up like different pieces of fabric too with it. So you can make a lot of different tools. A lot of things are basic, just helper tools to help you with your knitting. My favorite project I've made with Glowforge to date has actually been two different things. One of them being the shadow boxes that I made for my parents for Christmas. It was a shadow box that was like an 8x10. We just got a basic 8x10 shadow box frame. And in that frame, we've cut multiple layers of very small plywood to do the different layers of the shadow box. It was a 3D effect. And the nice thing about it is that I was able to develop an actual silhouette of our family in those shadow boxes. So one, for example, was a Christmas scene with all of us sitting in front of a tree with different layers, and I was able to make it so it looked like snow was falling in the window outside. Those two projects, as well as I made what they call a book nook, which is like a small insert you can put in your library, just nestled in with a bunch of books, and it shows like a little cafe scene inside the book. And it was very intricate, and my wife really enjoyed that one for a Christmas present.